好，咁就歡迎大家嚟到我哋第10屆香港節最後一日嘅第2場講座啦。咁亦都好多謝大家咁有 patience 喺度聽我哋齋飲。咁既然今日禮拜一，大家都知禮拜一通常我哋都會話係 Blue Monday 啊。咁我哋今日講嘅嘢都好 blue 嘅。I mean 真係好 blue 嘅，因為其實我哋講嘅圍繞住係2個題目。一就係成日都會有人提過嘅英國人係咪好中意出賣啲殖民地嘅？咁呢個我哋第一個會探討嘅問題啊。咁第二個問題就係喺1967年，其實究竟發生啲咩事，同埋點解造就到可以隨便可以喺後邊有位都可以坐。係啦，咁究竟1967年發生咩事，同埋英國嘅殖民地政府點樣去解決呢一個問題？sorry， 殖民地部點樣解決個問題咧？隨便做。咁喺講呢啲 topic 之前咧，咁我轉一轉 like cam 先。So for today's topic, we'll discuss in 2 different parts. The first part is what happens in 1967 in 3 different British dependent territories, including Hong Kong, Gibraltar, and Anguilla, which really in different parts of the world. So another part is we will discuss a very hot topic and once a very debatable questions among the Hong Kongese community. Is the British like or tend to betray its subjects or its citizens? So let's get back to the topic with Cantonese first, and then we will get back to English. 好，咁我哋開始㗎咯。有冇人知安貴拉喺邊度啊？或者有冇人知安貴拉喺邊度啊？
加勒比海。
係加勒比海人好勁。有冇睇到頭先我哋後邊呢個粉紅色區域嘅展覽位置啊？好犀利，好犀利！
我係去過。
我哋去過安貴拉啲。
安貴拉、直布羅陀、香港我都去過，所以點解我今晚會嚟？
哦，多謝。咁我哋講咗安貴拉先啦。安貴拉喺邊度咧？好似頭先位朋友咁講，安貴拉喺加勒比海。咁加勒比海其實有好多個島，咁每一個島咧，其實佢哋嘅文化都唔同。咁而喺咁多唔同嘅文化入邊，啲島民好清楚知道自己嘅身份認同係啲乜嘢，亦都建立咗自己嘅文化認同啦。咁但係呢啲嘢係淨係得島民尊重啦，定係會有其他人尊重咧？呢個係今日我哋講嘅嘢，你就會清楚感受到究竟 decolonization 係一樣乜嘢一回事。咁我哋成日講脫籍，我哋唔要做殖民地，我哋要做翻自己，掌握自己嘅命運。咁 decolonization 究竟係啲乜嘢咧？如果我哋可能睇翻字典或者睇翻啲最 basic 嘅 definition，就會話俾你聽，decolonization 就係將原本被殖民嘅人嘅權力去歸還翻俾呢啲原本嘅 natives 啊，或者呢啲原住民啦。咁我哋今日唔會去探討就係邊個係原住民或者邊個係被殖民者呢一樣嘢。我哋去探討嘅就係點解我哋用今時今日所謂好學術界或者係好學院派嘅 decolonization 永遠帶嚟嘅就係一個失敗嘅結果。decolonization 呢樣嘢本身，我唔可以話唔係錯啊，甚至應該係一樣啱嘅嘢嚟，因為冇一個地方係 deserve 去做一個殖民地或者俾人殖民。咁但係我哋講緊 decolonization 或者我哋講脫籍呢一樣嘢，好多人會即刻自動喺個腦度腦補啊！整咗條 equation 出嚟，就係脫籍就等於建立共和革命。咁但係我話俾你聽，脫籍同埋建立共和國係完全兩個 concept 嚟。因為真正嘅脫籍其實就即係你可以掌握翻自己嘅命運啦，決定翻自己嘅事務啦，你可以去掌控翻自己嘅命運。而建立共和係完全另一個 concept， 嗰個係一個建立一個新嘅政體。咁好啦，我哋翻返去主題，關今日乜嘢事咧？咁好啦，我哋講 decolonization 頭先講咗一個好經典嘅學院派點樣去解釋啦。 咁我哋成日都係講象牙塔。我哋離開象牙塔之後，我哋翻返去現實。我哋睇翻啲真正人類究竟溝通緊啲乜嘢，或者講緊啲乜嘢？究竟真正嘅 decolonization 係啲乜嘢咧？呢個世界我哋有兩種唔同嘅 decolonization， 一種我哋叫帝國嘅傲慢。咁乜嘢叫帝國嘅傲慢咧？就係係啊！你而家我之前殖民咗你，我而家覺得錯啦，我要幫你解殖。但係因為我殖民過你，我知道你唔掂，所以係要我去指導你，我教你點樣去解殖，甚至乎我去幫你安排埋你點樣去脫殖。咁我哋成日都係講，我哋去批評殖民主義，或者我哋去批評呢啲殖民中主角，最主要嘅原因就係佢哋係一種傲慢，就係覺得我哋先識嘢，你哋唔識嘢嘛。咁但係如果我哋用翻同一個概念，用佢哋嘅諗法就係只有佢哋先可以指導我哋如何脫殖，同樣地咪係一種傲慢。咁但係個位就嚟啦，如果一個由人哋安排嘅 decolonization， 即使包裝到幾好，話你有翻自己嘅自由，你有翻自己嘅平等，有翻自己嘅命運，但係呢樣嘢係人哋安排嘅，邏輯嗰個 contradict 嗰個位就嚟。咁究竟呢一樣嘢係咪另一種殖民咧？因為佢到 at the end 話要幫你解殖嗰一刻，其實佢都係睇唔起你。咁而當然我哋好明白香港就係經歷咗呢一樣所謂嘅 decolonization 啦，偽 decolonization。咁講完啲假嘢，我哋講啲真嘢啊！真正嘅 decolonization 係乜嘢咧？就係由翻當地人嗰個族群係去睇究竟佢哋要啲乜嘢，同埋點樣去解殖。咁今日我哋講緊3個唔同嘅殖民地，都經歷咗3種唔同嘅經驗。咁但係好有趣嘅就係，我覺得有時你可以話係呢個上帝玩笑啦。佢哋3場各自遠在天邊，一個喺歐洲，一個喺加勒比海，一個喺亞洲，同樣地面對嘅政治危機都係發生喺1967年。我唔知點解，可能腳頭唔好，或者嗰一年咧犯太歲啊嘛，我唔知。咁總之嗰一年就唔知做乜嘢，3笪地方都賴咗嘢。咁香港先啦，大家最熟悉。1967年發生咩事？有冇人記得？暴動，乜嘢暴動啊？國民黨啊？咁好簡單，我哋直接形容共產黨嘅暴動，跟住自然就會有人即刻歸納共產主義啊嘛。咁但係我話俾你聽，1967年嘅暴動從來同共產主義係冇關係嘅，因為真正可以煽動到香港嗰紮支持中國共產黨去發動67暴動嘅人，係因為呢個應該咁樣講啦，中國嘅極端民族主義同埋毛澤東式嘅共產主義。咁呢兩種加埋係一個極具破壞力嘅嘢，因為如果有嚟自南洋嘅朋友都好明白，馬來亞共產黨其實個 history 都係差唔多，只不過佢嘅收場係更加慘烈。咁我哋去到1967年，香港發生咗呢個有極端民族主義背景嘅共產主義暴動咯。好多人覺得共產主義同埋極端民族主義係唔可以溝埋一齊嘅，咁但係我哋唔好忘記呢個世界有好多嘢咧都係 merge 埋一齊，就係兩個惡魔擺埋一齊，就會變咗啲好有趣嘅嘢。咁我哋而家睇翻香港嗰場暴動發生咗之後，唔係無緣無故出現。首先1966年澳門出現咗一個123暴動。咁呢個123暴動咧，雖然冇正式宣布成立一個澳門人民政府，咁但係其實我哋都知道喺66到67年呢差唔多1年之間啦，澳門係一個權力真空嘅狀態。某程度上其實就係澳門嘅，我哋用嗰啲比較通俗啲嘅講法，就係呢啲澳門土共嘅控制嘅一個政府。咁葡國人基本上冇 say 啊嗰一年，甚至乎可能就算你唔係純嘅葡國人，你係一個混血兒啦，行出街，你只要你唔係所謂嘅華人樣咧，都會俾人打到豬頭㗎嘛。包括可能你係宗教人士更加犀利啦，如果你係 Catholic 嘅話。咁佢哋呢一個暴動係成功鼓舞咗香港嘅土共去學習。咁學習完之後咧，佢哋就將呢個經驗帶翻嚟香港。咁開頭佢哋好成功嘅，真係 周圍去癱瘓咗個市面啊，做好多嘢。咁但係佢哋最後發展到變成點呢？如果你要我用一句説話去形容67呢，我係唔會用暴動嘅，我係會用屠殺嘅。因為喺無數嘅時光入邊啦，喺1967年係發生過好多我哋可以叫 mass killing 嘅行為，無差別嘅屠殺，包括喺戲院嗰度放炸彈啦，包括喺電車嗰度放炸彈啦，甚至乎周街去暗殺一啲喺電台反對佢聲音嘅人。咁呢一啲行為嘅做法就係、其實都唔係好方便喺倫敦嗰度評論啦，因為大家都知道英國面對過啲咩問題。咁但係以上嘅行為咧，如果我哋根據大屠殺嘅定義啦，好多人覺得殺嘅人數唔係好足夠數就唔可以叫大屠殺。但係曾經美國出現過一個叫波士頓大屠殺咧，死亡人數只有6個人嘅啫。咁但係佢係波士頓大屠殺。咁而香港喺67嘅時候嘅死亡數字遠遠高過6個人，而死嘅人係由細路到大人都有。咁所以呢個絕對係一個屠殺。咁呢個係我哋香港1967年面對嘅危機啦，一個中國嘅極端民族主義諗住煽動香港嘅支持者，然後強迫香港選擇去投入中國嘅懷抱。但係最後香港人揀咗啲乜嘢嘢呢？萬惡嘅殖民政府，佢哋選擇咗呢個萬惡嘅香港政府去繼續俾英帝國主義蹂躪，繼續去接受呢個帝國主義嘅洗腦啊，同埋繼續接受呢個即係冇得學自己自由咁樣喺山邊搭屋嘅權利。佢哋係俾人韞咗喺一個豆腐樣咁細嘅公屋單位，真係好慘。即係又要即係我想去做嘢又唔得喎，又要逼我讀書，唔讀書又拉我阿媽去坐監。即係真係好衰，我覺得呢啲帝國主義咁。但係最後嘅問題係香港人嘅當時嘅選擇係啲乜嘢嘢？佢就係選擇咗呢個好萬惡嘅英國。咁而我哋再落去，直布羅陀發生啲咩事嘅？直布羅陀大家有冇人知道直布羅陀喺邊度㗎？即係頭先有位朋友話佢三笪地方都去過啦，咁所以暫時我 ignore 一下你先。即係除咗呢位朋友之外，有冇人知道直布羅陀喺邊度嘅？知嘅，係啦。
西班牙南部係嘛？
係啦，咁頭先亦都呢位朋友亦都非常之好啊，幫咗我一個大忙，就係、我原本第2條問題諗住問佢同邊個國家接壤。咁西班牙同直布羅陀係接壤嘅，但係直布羅陀唔係西班牙一部分。直布羅陀係英國嘅領土，直至今日。咁好啦，1967年發生咩事呢？當時西班牙係一個法西斯政府，統治者叫佛朗哥。咁佢講咗一句説話呢，相信大家都好有感情，或者係已經聽過。直布羅陀自古以嚟屬於西班牙不可分割嘅一部分，神聖不可侵犯嘅領土。直布羅陀人應該擁抱祖國嘅懷抱。咁呢個當然佢係用西班牙文講啦，佢唔會識講中文。咁但係 anyway 呢個就係西班牙對直布羅陀嘅態度。咁但係直布羅陀人做咗啲乜嘢嘢呢？佢就舉咗一個國際禮貌手勢俾佢啦。咁當然淨係舉呢個手勢係冇用嘅。咁所以佢哋1967年做咗一個公投，結果超過90%嘅人係選擇，我講一句英文先 ，British we are, British we stay。咁如果我用廣東話嚟講，就係我哋要留喺英國嗰度，我哋係一個英國人，我哋唔係西班牙人。咁當然西班牙就嬲豬啦。咁直布羅陀人做完之後，西班牙做乜嘢呢？呢個大家都好熟悉㗎。你班反骨仔，我山閘斷水斷糧，餓死你哋，渴死你哋，冇東江水飲。sorry， 我香港係啦。咁即係冇水，咁點啊？直布羅陀人做啲乜嘢呢？最得意嘅個位就係喺1967年公投之前嘅直布羅陀人係唔會好主動咁樣學英文嘅，即係佢覺得呢啲係外來嘅語言，呢啲係外來嘅人。我哋只係需要生活，好好講我哋自己嘅直布羅陀話就 OK 嘅 ，that's fine， 我賺錢嘅啫。咁但係1967年之後，加埋西班牙話斷水斷糧，結果激起咗呢個西班牙呢個直布羅陀嘅可以講嗰個民族認同啦，或者佢哋希望做到嗰樣嘢，就係原來英文可以有2個功能，一就係可以 直接咁樣鬧當時嘅 X 黨政府啦，一個字嘅啫，自己諗邊個係啦。咁鬧嘅 X 黨政府就係你唔好出賣我哋。嗱，我要強調就係呢個 X 黨政府係好中意出賣殖民地嘅。咁佢出賣咗咩殖民地咧？我哋最後 conclusion 嗰陣時會講少少。咁第二就係當呢一個英文佢哋發現係可以作為一個同西班牙區隔開嚟嘅工具嘅時候咧，佢哋就瘋狂學英文。而你今日去到直布羅陀旅行咧，你會發覺其實佢哋全部講英文，同一個喺 Britain 呢邊嘅英國人其實冇乜分別㗎啦，口音上面有分別。咁但係其實實際上佢哋都係 native language 咁樣去好 fluent 咁樣去講。咁直布羅陀67年面對嘅危機就係呢一樣嘢。咁地球嘅另一邊安圭拉面對緊啲乜嘢咧？咁頭先點解一開始要講咁多 decolonisation 嗰啲嘅？乜嘢帝國係傲慢？我哋喺安圭拉又睇到呢樣嘢。咁安圭拉隔離有個島咧叫聖 Kitts， 中文我唔記得係咩啦。總之佢係一個叫聖 Kitts 嘅島啦，其實都唔係好 care 嘅，即係佢只不過係一個比安圭拉大啲嘅島。咁但係1967年嘅時候咧 ，X 黨政府咧就話：既然你所有呢啲咁嘅西印度群島、呢啲加勒比海嘅島都係差唔多啦，啲人啲顏色都差唔多啦，咁不如炒埋一碟一齊獨立。咁你之後獨立咗之後，個經濟咪唔使我英國再去科稅幫你咯。咁我就即係冇眼屎乾淨埋咁樣走啦，冇阻住阿叔揾食咁樣嗰種狀態。咁啊，呢個係 X 黨政府嘅風格。咁當個問題係安圭拉人就話：喂，我唔要喎，我嗰啲人我都唔識佢嘅，都唔係我啲文化。咁你話你英國人撤走晒你喺我哋呢度做官嗰啲人，但係又唔係俾我哋安圭拉人自己上去做，你係派嗰大啲嘅島嗰啲人過嚟做，咁對我嚟講有乜分別？咁所以佢哋1967年嘅時候就發動咗一個革命啦。咁而呢個安圭拉係一個極度有趣嘅地方，亦都係歷史上嘅孤例嘅。佢係由一個殖民地獨立咗出去之後，然後發動革命，係去尋求重新成為殖民地，然後最後得償所願，再重新成為殖民地嘅時候，喺02年再正式脫籍，成為而家英國自治領土嘅一部分。咁呢個係一個好奇怪嘅案例啦。咁但係呢個就係67年佢面對嘅一個危機。咁結果呢啲咁嘅地方，佢哋最終嘅命運係點樣咧？或者有啲乜嘢解決到咧？雖然呢3個地方佢喺67年不約而同都係選擇咗英國，咁但係其實我哋應該強調啦，英國政府其實都唔係真係對殖民地好有感情，而係好經常會出賣殖民地嘅利益。咁香港我留翻最後先講啦，我哋講直布羅陀先。直布羅陀其實一直都要英國去承認或者係去保證，就係喺抗收直布羅陀人嘅意願之前，唔會自己主動同西班牙去傾直布羅陀嘅前途，甚至唔會係拱手將直布羅陀讓俾西班牙。但係呢樣嘢一度係英國政壇嘅主流嚟啊，即係放棄直布羅陀呢一樣嘢。第一，第二就係其實如果你有機會同一啲依邊嘅英國人去傾關於直布羅陀嘅問題咧，其實佢哋好多係直接話直布羅陀係 Spanish， 等於就係你去同佢講香港嘅問題嘅時候 ，That's Chinese。咁所以其實點解當我哋去搞香港節嘅時候，直布羅陀人會對我哋特別有感情，直布羅陀人會特別理解我哋，其實就係因為我哋面對緊同一樣嘢。咁啊講多一樣差唔多嘅嘢啦。如果你係嚟自蘇屋村，或者你曾經有幸去過蘇屋村拆之前嘅樓宇嗰度住過或者睇過嘅話咧，你去到直布羅陀會更加有感情嘅，因為都係差唔多咁嘅樣，但係人哋一個單位係我哋3個單位。咁但係呢個另計啦，呢人口問題。咁但係我哋講翻我哋今日嘅 topic 啦。頭先講過巧合嘅嘢咧，巧合得多幾次咧，我就有時覺得係 plan 好㗎啦。頭先講緊1967年世界嘅3個大洲都分別發生唔同嘅事，亞洲嘅代表香港啦，歐洲嘅代表直布羅陀啦，美洲嘅代表安圭拉啦， 然後1969年呢3個地方又一齊發生咗啲大事嘅。咁直布羅陀先啦，我比較中意直布羅陀其實。咁直布羅陀佢喺1969年終於頒布咗一個新嘅憲法啦。咁究竟係啲乜嘢嚟嘅咧？嗰張紀念嘅First Day Cover， 即係嗰個郵票，我哋擺咗喺後邊 pink section 嗰度，你可以去睇翻究竟係乜嘢樣。咁但係呢個憲法強調一樣嘢就係英國政府保證唔會喺未徵詢過直布羅陀人意願之前，將直布羅陀移交俾西班牙。咁 which is 其實某程度上，我哋香港都會有差唔多嘅感覺嘅，其實即係好似明明同我哋差唔多嘅地方，點解個待遇好似有啲唔同咧？咁好啦，我哋睇埋美洲咯。安貴拉1969年英國正式默許，法律上唔承認，默許就係佢同聖 Kitts 係要分開咁樣去對待，但係直至1980年先至正式 official 係承認呢個安貴拉係英國屬土嘅一部分，即係重新變翻去殖民地。咁而呢個安貴拉咧，亦都係非常之曳啊！咁喺1980年嘅時候咧，得到呢一個 confirm 嘅消息，即刻出咗一 set 郵票，就係類似係 congratulations， 係正式恭喜 Anguilla separation from St. Kitts， 跟住拍手掌，完全寫晒1967年、1969年、1980年中間發生咩事。咁但係可以話，如果安貴拉人自己從來冇爭取過，或者企得咁硬嘅話咧，安貴拉嘅命運已經係完全唔同。咁而頭先講過話要探討 X 黨政府嘅時候咧，我哋要俾多啲例子㗎嘛。咁仲有一個叫馬耳他。咁馬耳他呢個係好有趣嘅國家，因為佢被逼獨立之前，佢係公投過話要加入呢個變成 United Kingdom of Great Britain, Malta and Northern Ireland， 即係佢希望係變成一個構成國嘅一部分。而呢個 referendum 係馬耳他人大幅度咁樣去贊成呢一樣嘢，但係 X 黨政府話 no， 跟住我哋要逼你獨立，因為你即係其實某程度上，我哋講緊學院派嘅 decolonisation 先係最種族主義嘅，因為佢哋認為只要唔係英國本土嘅嗰種人嘅話，佢就要逼佢哋唔問佢哋意願之下行佢哋 plan 好嘅路。例如我哋成日都講話種族主義嘅問題啦，安貴拉90%人口都係黑人，直布羅陀人90%人都係地中海人種，而香港唔講啦，即係90%人都係 Cantonese 嚟嘅。咁而呢一個問題就係、變到就係、我哋明明覺得種族主義呢啲應該唔會係好強調 decolonisation 或者好支持 decolonisation 嘅人會出現嘅嘢啦，但係好 ironic 就係、當我哋去講 decolonisation 嘅時候，邊一個真正會尊重當地人嘅意願咧？往往就好少會喺啲學院派所睇到嘅嘢。好啦，入翻正題啦。咁69年喺香港發生咩事咧？最後嘅名單，我哋今日叫咩名？我哋成個活動叫呢個 Festival of Hongkong。咁1969年咧，呢個香港政府啦正式舉辦第一屆官方嘅香港節 Festival of Hongkong，亦都為香港設計咗第一個洋紫荊 logo。咁亦都係1969年 official 嘅香港節圖案啦。咁第二個就係而家後邊粉紅色嗰支旗嗰個市政局嗰個 logo 啦。第三個就係而家大家會戲稱佢做抽氣扇嘅一個，我都唔知應該叫洋紫荊定紫荊啊。即係根據英文咧，佢仲係洋紫荊嚟嘅，但係根據中文就變咗紫荊化 ，which is 兩個唔同嘅物種啦。不過呢個係博大精深嘅中華文化嚟，因為成日鹿都變咗馬，馬都變咗鹿㗎。咁但係夾埋馬鹿嗰啲我唔知係咩啊。咁但係我哋而家翻去嗰個位就係點解香港節咁重要？因為佢其實係重新話俾香港人聽你係乜嘢。咁而呢一個精神其實你可以話係繼承戰前一路去發展落嚟啦。而喺香港1969年正式亦都出現咗呢個世界上 或者係歷史上直至今日為止第一個，亦都係唯一一個只係 design for the people 嘅一個洋紫荊圖案。無論市政局定係之後嘅抽氣扇，其實都代表唔到香港人，因為一個係局徽，一個係代表某國嘅主權，而唯一一個冇代表過呢啲任何嘢，而係純粹為咗香港社會或者香港人而設計嘅，就係呢個洋紫荊。咁下一句正常我應該係會 sell 下我袋嘅，咁但係即係我講到我都覺得有啲沉啦，所以我唔 sell 我袋，一陣大家自己睇嘅。咁我哋最後喺呢個 Cantonese 嘅部分，我哋做多少少總結啦，就係喺呢3個海外屬地入邊，其實到今日西班牙仍然對直布羅陀有領土申索，佢仍然認為直布羅陀係呢個英國搶咗西班牙嘅領土。咁同樣地，我之前講過就係呢邊嘅 local， 甚至乎有時親歐親到係會 buy 呢個 Spanish 嘅嗰個講法，就話直布羅陀係英國搶翻嚟，而從來冇尊重過直布羅陀人自己嘅意願啦，同埋直布羅陀人自己嘅講法。咁所以直布羅陀人其實好努力咁樣喺英國呢邊話俾英國人聽，其實直布羅陀係啲乜嘢。咁所以當係友好地幫一個同我哋同病相憐嘅地方啦。每逢9月，留意每逢9月，通常直布羅陀都會有活動，因為佢哋嘅國慶係9月10號。咁就啱啱舊年嘅9月5號，佢哋就做咗一個 event 啦。咁我亦都有幸咁樣去參與咗。咁而呢一個 event 亦都係嘗試用一個新嘅方法話俾英國人聽，究竟直布羅陀係咩一回事。而擺翻喺我哋嘅香港，俾到啲咩啟示我哋呢？就係從來我哋唔需要去介意，或者唔需要去諗究竟英國人甚至其他人會唔會夾硬屈我哋係 Chinese， 或者夾硬講我哋係 Chinese。It doesn't matter. What matters is what you think of yourself。你覺得自己係乜嘢？直布羅陀人，你夾硬屈佢，你都可以屈佢係西班牙人。佢講嘅語言，我哋就算叫直布羅陀話都好，都係以西班牙文為基礎，然後滲入大量英文同埋其他地中海嘅語言。而香港正正就係我哋用 Cantonese 嚟做我哋嘅基礎語言啦，滲入大量英文同埋其他亞洲甚至乎係歐洲嘅語言 mix 埋一齊。咁呢個我哋所謂 Creole 嘅狀態係啦，冇錯，我有講 Creole 啦，我出現一定有 Creole 呢個字。咁香港呢種 Creole， 直布羅陀呢種 Creole 就係隔海相望嘅一個 twin， 一個親兄弟。而安貴拉係啲乜嘢？就係證明俾我哋睇，因為都會有人屈直布羅陀係呢啲 white privilege 噶嘛。咁我哋再去講就係點解要繼續強調安貴拉？安貴拉90%人口都係黑人，我哋90%人口都係 so-called 黃種人啦。咁但係你乜嘢膚色，你乜嘢種族，你乜嘢宗教，都唔影響你係一個乜嘢嘅人。而呢個就係現代我哋講緊公民社會，一個多元包容嘅社會。而家我哋講緊真正嘅 decolonization 應該去做嘅嘢。So Cantonese section is end here. So for English, not exactly the same content, but I would like make it shortly, briefly, to say the more contemporary part of what happens to the British overseas territories today. So Hong Kong was a British dependent territory, as similar as Gibraltar, as similar as Anguilla before 1997. So these three, you can say colonies or the dependency, they did a similar choice in 1967 when they faced the challenges between some great nation nearby and some great powers nearby. Yeah, that's a little bit not accurate in the Anguillian case, but as comparing as the Anguillian and the St. Kitts is much larger than Anguilla, so maybe it's still a larger power in circumstances. So in Gibraltar case, in 1967, the Spanish government, the nationalists, the fascist government, they just declared that Gibraltar should be or must be a Spanish territory. It's an occupied land by the British government. So when they did it, the Gibraltarians say no, and they start a referendum. And the referendum result is more than 90% of the Gibraltarians say we want to stay in British. So we want to stay in Britain. We remain as British rather than be reunited with the Spanish. So the Spanish, the reaction is very interesting. They just close the border, they cut the water supply, they cut the road for the food transportation, they cut every supplement to enter the Gibraltar border. So the Gibraltarian, this kind of threat, they do not afraid. They are just saying to the Spanish that whatever you did, we will remain our choice. And at the end, what they get for return is in 1969, they have a new constitution by the British government finally give up their wishes to betray the Gibraltarian. They finally listen to what the Gibraltarian want. They guarantee the Gibraltarian they would not hand Gibraltar to Spanish without any consenting by the majority of the Gibraltarian people. So this is what we hope we would have in the 1980s, but yeah, eventually the history tells another story. And for the Anguillian part, in the 1967, the Anguillian was forced by the British government to be independent with inclusively with the St. Kitts Island. But however, both Anguillian and the St. Kitts Islanders, they are different race, they are different culture, they have different identities, but in the viewpoint of the British government, they have a little bit like the ignorance of the imperial angle. So as an imperialist or as a government who want to rapidly retreat from the colonies, they do not care about the wishes of the colonized people. They just have their mind, their plan to force them to independence, and the Anguillians said, we don't want that. So they start a revolution and to create a very rare and strange example in the decolonization history. So the Anguillian, they first in 1967 being forced to independent with the St. Kitts, and then they start a revolution. They are not chased for independence, or they are not chased for to reunited to any part of the world. They are chased for to be a colony once again. So it's very strange. But eventually the success to become a British colony again, and at the end in 2002, they finally being decolonized as a British overseas territories today. They have their own government, they have their own system, their own currency, and they can do whatever they want. The Anguillian people who hold the Anguillian passport, they can come to Britain to live, to work, to study. But at the other hand, if you only got a BC passport, you need to ask the Anguillian government to let you live there or not. You need to have their consent. Even to be honest, like you are the mother country, but you have to ask the region you can enter or not. So it's like a real sovereignty and a real decolonization of one place if the people really want it. So we get back to Hong Kong. What happened in Hong Kong? So in 1967, Hong Kong faced a very great challenge from the influence of China. So at that time, we all know China is already turned red. So which means the communists, or to be more specific, the Stalinists, Maoists. So this kind of communism did influence or attract some people who want to start a revolution in both Macau and Hong Kong. But you have to be careful that in the Chinese context, whatever in the Greater China region or even in Malaya, it's not only about communism. It's always along with the Chinese extreme nationalism. which means they want to have more territories, they want to conquer more land, and to declare like the Spanish to the Gibraltar. And what they did to Macau is to first start the revolution in 1966, and later on in 1967 they have a similar so-called revolution, or I would call the massacre, in 1967 in Hong Kong. So they have many mass killing in Hong Kong, from killing children to elderly, with planting bombs in theatre, cinema, on the tram, on the street, just like some terrorist group here, which I cannot mention them to be secure. And the problem is there are many people question that if your killing number is very rare, you cannot call it a massacre. But as we know, the Boston massacres only have 6 people that get killed. But in that 1967 massacre, we have like more than 50 people are getting killed by the Chinese extreme nationalists. And they kill it because they refuse to support Hong Kong to being merged with China. So it's not like a communist riot, but more like a fascist. But we are not going to discuss more political movement or ideology in this talk, but it's just the crisis or the challenges we face in 1967. But what happened later, 2 years later in 1969, these 3 British overseas territories did have some, you can say, they got tricks to fundamentally change their fate. For Hong Kong, we organized the first Festival of Hong Kong in 1969, and they also designed the first Bohemian logo for the Hong Kong people, which you can see on our official tote bag. And for the another parts of the world, in Gibraltar, they have the new constitution that to force the British government to guarantee the Gibraltarian that they would not hand Gibraltar to Spanish without their consent. And at the end, for the Anguillian people, in 1969, the British government finally de facto to admit their separate status with the St. Kitts, but remember it's only de facto. In 1980, it's finally official. Then the Anguillian immediately published or established their new series of stamps, and they said, "Hooray! Congratulations! We finally separate with St. Kitts." So when we talk about some political language like separation, independence, or even autonomous, these kind of words, to many people it may be a good thing, but to some regimes there will be a threat, or there will be something serious to their fragile heart. But for us as Hong Kongese, we lost our chance in the late 1940s. We used to have a home rule movement. Because of China, we lost it. In 1980s, we used to have another chance to have home rule again, and we lost the chance because of the Sino-John Declaration. And in 1997, we finally faced our fate and to merge with the China. And nowadays, we all fell to UK. So the problem is how we survive, or how we keep the Hong Kong spirit, like what we keep mentioning about the meaning of the establishment of Hong Kong, the spirit of the native people of Hong Kong, the Tankeria, how they aligned with the British to fight against the Chinese regime, or at that time we call the Manchurian Empire, and to fight against them to get back their rights. This kind of spirit is starting from the first day of Hong Kong history, from 26th of January in 1841, and keep rolling and rolling and falling in pre-war year, in wartime, in 1967, in 1984, in 2014 we call the Umbrella Revolution, in in 2016 we call it fishbowl revolution, and in 2019 we have another. We still not have a very accurate name, but a several set of revolutions, and we keep the spirit, and the spirit is deep root in our heart. So the English sharing is ends here. So for the last part, I will use Catalyst to have a little bit additional information。頭先講廣東話嘅時候，未提到呢樣嘢啦，就係、呼應翻我哋今日嘅主題啊。其實我哋強調就係點解要紀念翻1月26號1841年1月26號香港開埠，唔係因為我哋要去讚揚呢個殖民主義，我哋唔係因為要去歌頌呢個英國人係做好多嘢啊，感恩戴德。我哋紀念嘅其實係當初一班因為中華帝國嘅種姓制度嘅體制之下而冇咗自己嘅權利嘅一啲水上人，當佢哋喺所謂嘅鴉片戰爭嘅時候選擇同英軍行埋一齊，而去同呢個大清國去戰鬥，佢哋呢種為咗自由嘅嗰種精神其實一直長存喺香港人嘅靈魂之中。咁所以我哋成日講一樣嘢就係一個民族係唔可以冇自己嘅魂嘅。咁我哋究竟我哋香港魂係啲乜嘢呢？3個字講完㗎啦 ，Fight for freedom 呢個大家都好熟悉。咁而 Fight for freedom 呢樣嘢唔係2019年先出現，唔係2016年先出現，唔係2014年先出現，甚至乎唔係2戰嗰陣時先曇花一現，而係由1841年1月26號香港歷史上嘅第一日已經深植喺我哋嘅心目中。咁就呢一節嘅 talk 我哋暫時分享到呢度。咁我哋嚟緊落嚟就會係 open to the floor 啦，咁啊大家 Q&A 同樣地都係 bilingual 嘅，你方便你開心嘅可以用廣東話啦，如果你覺得用英文會舒服啲嘅都可以用英文。So it's the end of this session of our talk, and it's time for the Q&A session. It's also in bilingual sector. So if you are feel more comfortable to use Cantonese, then you can use Cantonese. If you feel more comfortable to speak in English, feel free to use it. So thank you again for everyone to join tonight second talk. And later on after the Q&A, we have a little bit rest time, and then we have the end of the day talk, which is talking about the memory of Hong Kongese, or how the Hong Kongese identity and how our nationality being changed by decades. So this kind of things, if you have interest, please stay to discuss with me or for other parties that you can see here. So Q&A session now. Thank you.